Hi, welcome back to Shirai Show. This is the continuation. Part 13 is Safe in the Shepherd's Arms, from Hope and Encouragement from Psalm 23 by Max Lucado. You anointed my head with oil. When you come to God, you come with high hopes and humble heart. In ancient Israel, the shepherd used three purposes. Three. To repel insects, to prevent conflict, and to heal wounds. Bugs bug people, but they can kill sheep. Flies, mosquitoes, and gnats can turn the summer into a time of torture for the livestock. Consider the nose fly, for example. If they succeed in depositing their eggs into the soft membranes of the sheep's nose, the eggs become worm-like lava, which drives the sheep insane. One shepherd explained, for release from the agonizing annoyance, sheep will deliberately beat their heads against trees, rocks, posts, and brush. In extreme case of intense infestation, a sheep may even kill itself, and the friends endeavored to gain respite for the aggravation. When a swarm of nose flies appears, sheep panic. They run, they hide, they toss their heads up and down for hours. They forget to eat. They aren't able to sleep. We stop milking and lambs stop growing. The entire flock can be disrupted, even destroyed, by the presence of a few flies. For this reason, the shepherd anoints the sheep. He covers their heads with an oil-like repellent. The fragrance keeps the insects at bay and the flock at peace. At peace, that is, until mating season. Most of the years, sheep are calm, passive animals. But during mating season, everything changes. The rams put the rams in rambunctious. They strut around the pasture and flex their necks, trying to win the attention of the new gal on the block. When the ram catches her eyes, he tosses his head back and says, "I want wee baby." About the time her boyfriend shows up and tell her to go someplace, say, "We better move, sweetie. This could get ugly." The two rams lower their heads and pow! An old-fashioned headbutts break out. To prevent injury, the shepherd anoints the rams. He smears the slippery, greasy substance over the nose and head. This lubricates, causes them to glide off rather than crash into each other. They still tend to get hurt. However, these wounds are the third reason the shepherd anoints the sheep. Most of the wounds the shepherd tends are simply the result of living in the pasture. Thorns, pricks, or rock cuts, or sheep rubs his head too hard against a tree. Sheep get hurt. As a result, the shepherd regularly, often daily, inspects the sheep, searching for cuts and abrasions. He doesn't want the cut to worsen. He doesn't want today's wounds to become tomorrow's infection. Neither does God. Just like sheep, we have wounds, but our wounds are of the heart that come from disappointment after disappointment. If we are not careful, these wounds lead to bitterness. And so, just like sheep, we need to be treated. He made us. We belong to him. We are his people, the sheep he tends. Sheep aren't the only one who needs preventive care. And sheep aren't the only one who needs a healing touch. We also get irritated with each other, butt heads, and then get wounded. Many of our disappointments in life begins as irritation. The large portion of our problems are not the lion-sized attack, but rather the day-to-day swarms of frustration, mishaps, and heartaches. You don't get invited to the dinner party. You don't make the team. You don't get the scholarship. Your boss doesn't notice your hard work. Your husband doesn't notice your new dress. Your neighbor doesn't notice the mess in his yard. You find yourself more irritable, more gloomy, more hurt. Like the sheep, you don't sleep well. You don't eat well. You may even hit your head against a tree a few times, or you may hit your head against a person. It is amazing how hard-headed we can be with each other. Some of our deepest hurts comes from butting heads with people. Like the sheep, the rest of our wounds come from just living in the pasture. The pastures of sheep, however, is much more appealing. The sheep has to face wounds from thorns and thistles. We have to face aging, loss, and illness. Some of us face betrayal and injustice. Live long enough in this world, and most of us will face deep hurt of some kind or another. So we, like sheep, get wounded, and we, like sheep, have a shepherd. Remember the words we read. We belong to him. We are his people, the sheep he tends. He will do for you what your shepherd does for his sheep. He will tend to you. If you will let him. How? How do you let him? The steps are so simple. First, go to him. David would trust his wounds to no other but God. He said, "You anoint my head with oil." Not your prophet, not your teacher, not your counselor. Others may guide us to God. Others may help us understand God. But no one does the work of God. For only God can heal. God heals the brokenhearted. Psalm chapter 147, verse 3. Have you taken your disappointments to God? You have shared them with your neighbors, your relatives, your friends, but have you taken them to God? James said, anyone who is having trouble should pray. Anyone who's having trouble should pray. And that is from the Bible. And that is James chapter 5, verse 13. Before you go anywhere else with your disappointments, go to God. Maybe you don't want to trouble God with your hurts. After all, he got famines and pestilence and wars. He won't care about your little struggles. You think. Why don't you let him decide? He cared enough about the wedding to provide the wine. He cared enough about Peter's tax payment to give him a coin. He cared enough about the woman at the well to give her an answer. He cares about you. 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 7. Your first step is to go to the right person. Go to God. Your second step to assume the right posture. Bow before God. In order to be anointed, the sheep must stand still, lower their heads, and let the shepherd do his work. Peter urges us to be humble under God's powerful hand, so he will lift you up when the right time comes. 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 6. When we come to God, we make requests. We don't make demands. We come with high hopes and humble hearts. We state what we want, but we pray for what is right. And if God give us the prisons of Rome instead of the mission of Spain, we accept it because we know that God will always give what is right to his people who cries to him day and night. And he will not be slow to answer. That is Luke chapter 18, verse 7. We go to him, we bow before him, and we trust in him. The sheep doesn't understand why the oil repels the flies. The sheep doesn't understand how the oil heals the wound. In fact, all the sheep knows is that something happens in the presence of the shepherd. And that is all we need to know as well. Lord, I give myself to you. My God, I trust you. Go, bow, trust. Worth the try, don't you think? Traveling light, Shira.